Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy, back with another update in response to all the goings on in the legal drama surrounding It Ends With Us. And today's one of those days where I really wish I hadn't started doing this. For some reason I couldn't sleep last night, and I'm here in the UK. And it was all going off in the States overnight. So overnight I was sucked into all this umpteen videos on what was going on. So now I'm like, oh, I don't even know where to start with all of this. So I thought I'd first start by recapping what Blake Lively is actually suing Justin Baldoni for, because we know now that she's offering to kindly dismiss two of these allegations or motions, whatever they are. Very kind of her, very sweet-hearted. So let's run through what she's actually suing him for, because I've never touched on it, and I thought I better look it up exactly what she's suing him for. So she's suing him for sexual harassment, or SH, retaliation. She's suing him for SH in violation of the Fair Employment and Housing Act, which is FEHA. So she's suing him for retaliation in violation of FEHA, retaliation in violation of the California Labor Code, failure to investigate, prevent, remedy harassment in violation of the Fair Employment and Housing Act. Now, it's very hard for him to investigate that when she didn't raise any concerns, isn't it? Aiding and abetting harassment and retaliation in violation of Fair Employment and Housing Act, breach of contract, act to loan out agreement. So this is the complicated one, and it's the one we question because according to Not Actually Golden, who I've just double checked with one of her videos from a while ago, so that's her original contract, where it was her LLC Blake Hell that contracted her to be an actor in It Ends With Us, and her contract was with It Ends With Us LLC, and apparently this is a normal way of doing things. So that's the contract that we're not over sure if she ever signed. And in this lawsuit of hers, she has never, she's suing for things like breach of contract, but what would be normal in that case is for her to attach that contract to her filings, and it's not there. So everybody assumes there are things in that agreement that are detrimental to her case or don't look good. And the other question mark there is that in her lawsuit, it's all Blake Lively versus where's Blake L. Blake L should surely be a part of this, because that it's her company, although she's the only part of that contracted her. So she's suing It Ends With Us LLC, but she's not bringing her Blake L company into the lawsuit. So everybody kind of thinks there must be something with this contract, really. What she does attach to her filing is what is in the next part of what she's suing: breach of contract, contract writer agreement. So this is this 17-point list that she kind of came up with sometime over Christmas and presented it to them early January 2024 as a rider for her stipulations for coming back to work. Now that is attached to the lawsuit, and apparently it's dated May 5th, which is kind of like, well, that's kind of backdated then, because I think May 5th is when they started filming. But the thing is that that 17-point thing, there's no dates on the signatures, which is kind of like a crucial thing too. So she's attached that, but not attached the original contract, which is iffy. So then she's also, these are the two things that she's now saying she might be kind enough to dismiss: the intentional infliction of emotional distress and the negligent infliction of emotional distress. So that apparently is nothing to do with the SH aspect. It's about the her distress related to the retaliation and to the untraceable magic smear campaign. She's kind of waiving that. And I find that interesting because to me, if you're bringing intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress into a lawsuit, to me, it's weaved throughout the whole thing. It's not like it's not going to be causing you emotional distress. It's not like the SH bit of that is not going to be related to all the other bits of it. To me, it's like you can't. I find it very hard to consider how you can just dismiss elements of that. How do you separate out your emotional distress? I find that very kind of haphazard, not that I know the law. And the other thing she's suing is the false light invasion of privacy. Oh gosh, there's more. There's SH in violation of California Civil Code, the defamation, and civil conspiracy. So I guess that's the magic untraceable stuff and all of that. So yeah, so what she's saying over dismissing these point 10 and point 11 that cover the emotional distress. So the whole point of this is Blake Lively does not want to give up her medical records. She does not want them knowing about her physical or mental health conditions. But the trouble is, she's accused them of things like intentional, extreme, outrageous conduct. This is the wording along the lines of it's not things that somebody or a corporation with normal moral compass, the expectations that most of society would have, would act like. So she's kind of levying some fairly hefty accusations, and you imagine if you're on the receiving end of that, if it was genuine, you probably would be seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist, maybe even a hypnotherapist like me. So she's trying to get it. You see, that's kind of what's interesting in a way to me, is that, so she's trying to get that, she's trying to say, I will waive that as long as it is without prejudice. I keep having to check this. Without prejudice, which means that it's kind of like a veiled threat. It's saying, I'll give you that for now, but I'm not saying that I won't sue you for that later, possibly under another, possibly under California jurisdiction or whatever it is. So it's kind of saying, to me, this is a bluff. That part of it, to me, I don't think she's any intention of getting wrapped up in another different legal case with him. I'm sure she'll take that to a grave, that she never intends to do that again. But I think that's for the public. My own interpretation of that is it's her trying to retain some dignity. I think it's her trying to say, it did happen to me, but I'm just streamlining the process, for the good of the court and the speed of the issue and all of that. But I'm not saying it didn't happen, because look, I asked if I took it away kind of without prejudice, because I'm not saying I'm never going to sue for that thing. I think it's just a big bluff, that thing. I don't think she's any intention of suing him. It's kind of like saving face to my mind. Yes, I'm trying to keep up with all these notes I've made to see if there's anything. And the other thing that's going on is they all seem to be trying to sanction each other left, right and centre, don't they? So they're all the kind of backwards and forwards with the same kind of argument. You're filling the court docket up with duff stuff, and you've filed that, but really that's just like a PR move. So they're kind of both trying to sanction each other for that. I mean, I was trying to keep up through the night. It kind of what Lively was sanctioning, then Baldoni was sanctioning, and then Lively was attacking his asks for sanctions. So it's like, oh my God, I couldn't keep up with it all. But we've had our first, during all of this paperwork, we've had our first interaction with just what will be Justin's trial lawyer as well. Apparently this Ellen Garofalo, and I kind of thought, oh, is she related to Janine Garofalo? And I had to go off and Google that and check that, because I used to like her. She was really good in movies, wasn't she? She was really different. She hadn't been around for ages. So yeah, so this is what's going on basically. But I kind of am just sat, listening to all of this stuff in fascination because, and the other interesting thing about Ellen Garofalo, I can't say it, is the fact she used to work for Venable, which is the Taylor Swift lawyer. Now, she may or may not have been working, had some kind of interaction there at some point with Taylor's dealings, but it's interesting. Although I guess the world of law is possibly a small pool at that level, but yeah, it's very, very interesting that they've come up with this trial lawyer who used to work for Venable, which was Taylor Swift's legal team. But yeah, other than that, what else has been going on? There was something that just came to my mind just then and it's wandered off again. There was something else in the last couple of days that's been a bit crazy, but yeah, I think more than ever, I mean, this is why I got involved with talking about this at the start, because it just seemed way beyond like a petty on-set fight or disagreement. It highlighted straight away, toxic narcissism, what happens when you're dealing with people that you can't reason with. And that was what interested me early doors. But also like the bigger picture of what this was going to do to the Me Too movement and what that brought into question and how we looked at the legal system. But it's like just fascinating to me now because it's making me, I don't know about you, but it's making me question just who I value, who I elevate in my own mind. It's like, and how easily reputations are destroyed or your own thinking is brought into question or what you thought you knew about things. Because I thought Hugh Jackman was somebody who would never be rocked in my mind as to whether I liked him or thought he was a genuine or good person. And now it's like, wow, Ryan Reynolds, you really are powerful, because I literally would have bet money on the fact I would have never changed my opinion on Hugh Jackman, and now it's like I kind of just see all the flaws, and it's like, how long was that affair going on with Sutton Foster when he's known her like for the best part of 2 decades and things, and it's like, what does Hugh's ex-wife Deb know? What has she had to put up with in all of that time? I mean, is this why you can't really say anything when it comes to this legal suit? Because if he has genuinely been confiding all of his dealings to Ryan and Blake, can you imagine how dangerous that is if Blake Lively knows Hugh Jackman's private business when she can't help but run her mouth? I mean, I would imagine Ryan's tried to be probably quite careful about what he's said there, but I think that is possibly the reason why Hugh Jackman has to kind of keep like this with them, because they know too much. His whole world could detonate. I mean, if they turned around and threatened to extort Hugh Jackman, like they threatened to extort Taylor Swift, allegedly, then I think that might be the reason why he's hanging around. But it's amazing, isn't it? Because it makes you look incredibly weak, I think, his stance in all of this, and it makes me look at him and all his little song and dance stuff and this big showman and all of this, and it kind of is just making me question everything. And it's interesting because I'm doing like a course in miracles, and that's all about not judging and forgiving and us all being kind of like spiritual beings, not being bodies, not being all of these things that we do. So to me, what I find and always have found fascinating about all of this is the mirror that it's throwing up to me. The illusion really of Hollywood and these people being good, bad, indifferent, or whatever the rest of it is. And just like what happens when we live entirely from the perspective of ego, and we can't back down and we can't negotiate and we can't compromise, and it has to be our way and somebody has to be wrong. But what I do think now, and I can't think who it was I was watching it, probably without a crystal ball, and I probably agree with this, but I think what you're going to start seeing now is the slow disintegration of Blake Lively's lawsuit, because I think this is just the beginning. I think she'll hang on to as much as she can for as long as she can, but I think because she never really intended to get to this point because she thought Justin Baldoni would cave. I just don't think they ever thought very far ahead. And that is another narcissist problem, is they don't think too far ahead. And that's the thing, is I don't think they were ever thinking that billionaire Steve Sarowitz would jump on board, that Justin would be funded. I think they were thinking this was this little man with his little company and his little friends and him and his wife that wear matchy outfits and all of this. And I think they thought they'd crush him very easily. So, we know full well from how Blake first constructed those legal arguments that they weren't properly done, really. They were rushed out because they weren't ever really intended to be filed. That is the thing. She never thought it would come to that. So now what's happening is, because she's not thought ahead, she's not thought that anything would ever be asked of her. She's not intended she never intended being deposed, having to do a deposition, having to be put under oath. She never thought we would know anything about her medical business. And the thing is, it's like, you do kind of wonder what would come out from her medical things. There's a really uncharitable, unchristian part of me that says, is there some sexual health things that are a bit dubious that would maybe bring into question how faithful she is and things like that? And that is I'm fully admitting that's really uncharitable and unchristian of me. But that did kind of pop into my head. Is it not so much about the mental health thing? Because I would imagine they're very careful with what they will go to a professional with mental health about, unless it was something very very serious that did require medication. I mean, they did say at one point with Blake that it was quite a serious mental disorder or something, or that might get out about it, kind of implying that she did have something like that. But it may be that there's nothing at all related to a mental health condition or any kind of emotional duress brought on by this period of the SH and the legal and the retaliation and all of that. But this dating thing is really, really important, and it always has been, is because can you actually sue for something, given what that date is? Because she wasn't, if she didn't sign that contract, I mean, Jamie Heath in something like June 24 was still chasing her for the contract to be signed around that time of the PGA, her pushing for the PGA mark. She still hadn't signed a contract then. So there's all that thing of, she could have walked off that movie at any time she liked. She could have had a bodyguard sat in her trailer with her if she felt unsafe on set. And this business of the 17-point rider and that, one of those points was that she got to vet the doubles, because she insisted at that point on having a body double for both her and for Justin when there was any kind of like sex scenes going on or that. So it was that body double that's now come out kind of in mild support of it. It's a bit like iffy wishy-washy, but kind of saying, oh, she wasn't like that previously on Another Simple Favour, but I could tell there was something not quite right on this set. But it doesn't really come out and call anybody a bad guy. But it's very interesting that she was the one that got approval based off of that 17-point list. She got to approve who was Justin's body double as well as her own. So he didn't get a say in that. So this guy that's now come out in support of her, that she's previously worked with, so she's sanctioned that. So of course she's going to work with somebody that she thinks she can have some pull over, have some sway over, or some influence. I'm sure there'll have been some jokey banter and things, and some no teeth talk and the rest of it on the set of Another Simple Favour, maybe with this guy. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm sure there's loads of things, because so much was going on overnight and there were so many things swirling around in my head. But yeah, I think that is what will happen, is the more she comes to realise how difficult this process is going to be and how much more she will be asked to reveal. I mean, can you imagine us are actually sitting down for a deposition? I think bit by bit, some of these points that we've said at the beginning will start. It'll be something like this, like they're doing now with the 10th and 11th one. They'll be like streamlining. There'll be further streamlining until there's not much left at all. But I mean, at this point, I think to anybody rational that's following this thing, there is no SH, and I think Blake in everything that's going on, then they just don't refer to it anymore. You know, they know it's got no legs, this thing. And there's also the thing, that was the other thing, of the amicus brief. So I've talked about that before in another video, but now it turns out, and I googled it just to check, forgotten which one it is, but Ezra Hudson, who is one of Blake's lawyers, kind of the one that's kind of most prominent other than Mike Gottlieb, I guess, who's the one that allegedly tried to extort Taylor Swift. Lovely people, these people. So Ezra Hudson is on the board of one of these organisations that has taken part in the amicus brief and brought that into play. So how do you say that you're not partisan, or whatever the correct word is, that you're not a party to it, when you sat on the board of one of the organisations? Surely that would have been passed muster somewhere along the way, that somebody signed off on that it wouldn't come to the board's attention that you were going to take part in this high profile case. And was there any conflict there? And it's like, shouldn't it be on Ezra Hudson to make it plain to the judge that this amicus brief, that she may have some conflict there because she's on the board of one of the organisations that's in support of it? You know, what the hell is going on? You know? So I think that's all I can come up with for today. It was just to have a quick roundup of what was going on, and just to refresh myself on what she's actually suing Justin for. Yeah, and just to, you know, grab your own thoughts as well. You know, some of you out there are far more retaining the legal information far better than I am. You know, I guess some of the people that are, you know, out there, like Crystal Ball, Popcorn Planet, and, you know, Melanie King and a lot of the others, they're spending a great chunk of the day, you know, probably adding to the timeline and all of that. I'm spending my day hypnotising people or studying and things like that. I'm kind of on the periphery of it, but I just like to give my thoughts on it and try and make it a little bit concise. If you don't really want to follow all of the arguments, you just kind of want the highlights and the feelings behind it, and just to have a little ramble about it. But please do hit that like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content, or consider sharing it. And please drop me a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts on how it's going to play out now. And yeah, I will see you again soon. Bye bye.